All right. Well, Brian Sanders, we are pumped to have you with us today.
Mhm. Hey, well, good to be here.
All right, guys. Well, as you guys listening know, we always like to kick off the interviews rapid fire style with a little true and false. So, Brian, you could answer true or false to any of these, or you may also opt to add a caveat if you believe one is necessary. You ready to
Okay.
rock and roll?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. All right, number one, vegan meat is a good alternative to real meat.
Balls. Oh man, these layups. Okay.
Number two, greed is at the root of an unhealthy society.
True. I think so, yeah.
Well, I got to follow up to that one then. Farmers are the greedy ones we need to watch out for.
Balls.
Producing the movie Food Lies has been the biggest undertaking of your life.
Oh, true, for sure.
Awesome. Can't wait to speak about that. Next up, we got satiety is the key to fat loss.
Ooh, true. My
Right.
favorite topic.
Next is if it's tasty, it's probably not healthy.
Oh, well, that's a big caveat there. That is the biggest caveat. That could go two directions. So we'll have to talk about that one later.
We will definitely do a deep dive on that. And then finally, hours of weekly exercise is necessary to be lean, fit, and healthy.
False.
Yes, man after our own hearts.
Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. So then let's start to just dive right in a little bit. Why don't you give everybody listening a little bit of your background? I mean, what is your history? How did you come into this space? Because obviously, you got one of the most popular, if not the most popular, podcast on nutrition, that being Peak Human. You've started this movie, Food Lies, which I believe is probably soon to be released, I believe.
Mhm.
And so how did you wind up here? Because I don't think that this was your original trajectory, was it?
No, never thought I could be here. Never thought I'd be hanging around with my nutrition idols like Mark Sisson and, playing Ultimate Frisbee with him. And, I just I was on the phone with him last week. It's so exciting. So I was just a guy just going through life, just gaining a couple pounds every year. And I was a mechanical engineer and then I got into tech. Well, then it actually takes a turn for the sad part. So I lost both my parents around 30. So it's kind of the same time when yeah, well, they say your metabolism slows down, but that's actually not what it is. You just can't eat whatever you want anymore. Basically, I was trying to eat the food pyramid and I was making my own food and it wasn't working. I just was skinny fat, like yes, I'm a thinner person naturally, but I was skinny fat and it was not good. And I had all these problems and I had overuse injuries and joint pain and allergies and acid reflux and all this stuff. And I was just going down this path, right? I saw it and then I saw my parents in real time just be the end stage of those paths of trying to eat the low fat diet and eat the like bread and whatever the food pyramid said, and then slowly get on more medications and slowly get more fat around their midsection and then slowly get the chronic diseases, Alzheimer's and cancer. And another thing is people don't know that those are metabolic diseases. The mainstream, I had no idea. It's just like, oh, well, they just were unlucky. They did everything right. They're just unlucky. This is going to happen to me. And then I realized that is absolutely not true. This does not have to happen to me at all. And I just made a few changes. Speaking of Mark Sisson, I read his book. All I did was I read the Primal Blueprint 9 years ago. I'm 39. So right around this time when I was, turning 30, my parents, all the problems were occurring, made some changes and in my diet and everything changed. It was so simple. Just cut out the few, processed ingredients and just change my thinking about food, which we can get into. And everything went away. All those problems went away. And I lost like 20 pounds of fat. My whole body changed. My whole life changed. And I went along that path for a while. And then I realized, man, I needed to tell people about this. Like, I mean, I am telling people about this to my friends and just people around town, but we need to tell the world. So I had this film background growing up. I was always making videos, especially with this one guy, Jay. We were just making videos for everything. We took all the video classes. He ended up going to film school. Full circle, I start this film project, and then he joins me. And he's back. The same guy I started making films with in seventh grade is an amazing filmmaker and editor and filmographer. And so he's now making Food Lies with me, and he has a similar story with his family. And we've been all in for 6 years on this journey, making it, flying around the world, filming with the best people, best doctors, scientists, the Hadza, the Maasai in Africa, all these things to get the word out there that this is how humans should eat.
Well, I can't wait to get into like a lot of the details. You obviously have interviewed some amazing people for this. The trailer for it alone is like just incredible, right?
Mhm.
Like, I mean, I love that trailer. It starts getting me excited. I'm like, yes, finally, like somebody's going to go and tell the story. But I just want to back up for a second. When you were talking about, your family and your parents and their health journey, or where their health journey ended, when
Mhm.
you grew up, were you growing up in a family that was somewhat health conscious and you were just eating that way, or was nutrition just not something that was even a consideration?
It was a huge okay, so we weren't like health nerds. It wasn't like they were hippies and it was always like, "All right, guys, let's talk about nutrients." It was more like, "No, this is we don't eat fast food. We focus on it. Like this is how we eat. Eat this to be healthy." I was like forced to drink milk, but the thing it was just like random skim milk from the grocery store. It wasn't like good raw whole milk that I drink now. I was forced to eat fruit. I remember I was traumatized over fruit and milk. I didn't eat it until I was like 36 because I was forced to eat it because my family thought it was healthy. Well, there's nothing wrong with fruit per se, but you know what I mean? I just was traumatized by it because, yes, we did focus on health. We did not eat much red meat. We did not go out to eat. We did not eat high fat things. We ate the food pyramid. We did this. We were focused on it. My answer is yes. We were very focused on it. Going out to eat was a big treat, and yeah, it didn't work out.
I ask that because I think that all of us who fall within this age demographic of like between 30 and 50 grew up very similar in that, my family too. I remember my mom worked for Nutrisystem for a while. She was like one of those Nutrisystem coaches.
Mhm,
And in our house, it was skim milk. It was, eating a lot of grains and such. And a lot of that is just because, again, that's what we were all educated on, or indoctrinated with. If you want to
mhm,
really look at the history of all this,
mhm,
how we arrived here, told a whole bunch of lies, and unfortunately, um, our parents are the ones who kind of took the bait, because, well, why wouldn't you believe what the government has to tell you about the way that we should be eating, and the fact that eggs are unhealthy, bacon is the worst thing for you, and yet their parents grew up eating a lot of these things
mhm.
and didn't see the health problems that generation did. So I just think it's interesting, again, about how right now I feel like we are on the precipice of starting to break through some of that, and which leads really right into your movie. So talk to us a little bit about, how that came about and where you're at now.
Yeah, the paradigm is shifting. I think it is. I think this whole plant-based thing, I mean, hopefully kind of not panning out, right? You look at the Beyond Meat stocks tanking, and I think a lot of people gotten excited about making a lot of money pushing this narrative, and it didn't pan out. And they're actually even suing is it Beyond Meat or Impossible Burger, right? Someone's suing, the investors are suing the company owners for making them think that the market was bigger than it was. So yeah, I think it's at the end, there's kind of cyclical, or you go through these stages. Yeah, these big stages of beliefs and things. Like, of course, yes, all that prior generation, cholesterol is bad, fat's bad. Now it's a plant-based thing. And now I think we're going to back to, hey, grandma was right. That's my whole vision of like what the future can be in the next couple of years will be grandma was right. Wow. Like she ate liver and onions once a week, right? Grandma serves my grandpa liver and onions once a week. I'm like, oh my God, she was right. Or even great grandma, she was, eating from the land and just eating simple foods, and she wasn't scared of cholesterol or eggs or fat. So yes, that's kind of like the end goal. And I think that shift's happening. I watched a vegan film, What the Health, 6 years ago. That's the day I decided I need to make this. And then the Game Changers came out a couple years ago. People may have seen that. And so, yeah, there's a lot of misinformation out there. A lot of people like animal rights activists trying to dictate the conversation. So it's either people making money, a lot, trying to make money. There's like world policy stuff and government stuff that's in the mix. And then there's also animal rights activists in the mix. And it's like this perfect storm of just bad information and bad people. Well, not bad people. Well, yeah, kind of bad people, but
we could agree on that.
Yeah. Just trying to shape the world the way they want it and make money and all that. And there's, I guess, our community that's trying to do the opposite and say, hey, everyone we know, everyone who just goes back and eats like a human, eats the real food, we all get healthier. It's kind of this one-way street too. I think everyone notices this, right? It's not like you go, you start eating real foods and you eat more animal foods, and then all of a sudden you're like, now I'm going to go vegan, right? It's like you go down this path. I mean, maybe you go back, some people go back to junk foods sometimes because they can't keep up with it, and they're maybe addicted to it, or their people around them keep kind of like getting them back on that wagon. But still, you once you understand that animal foods are healthy, you don't go back. The main crux of the film is that meats and animal foods are healthy. We've always known this, and that processed foods are the real problem. And it's so simple. Like, that was one sentence. And most people could probably kind of agree to that. Even, I mean, some people would have pushback, right? Because they've heard all the propaganda, but this is not a big controversial message. And it's not some like crazy complex thing that we're laying out. It's a crazy complex project to make it super entertaining. You use all the good science and give it to people, right? That's why it's taken 6 years. It's going to be 6 episodes. It's going to go through the entire history of why humans should eat this way and why our basic physiology is set up for animal nutrition and whole foods. And we'll go through the whole story, and we'll go through all the lies we've been told. We're making it fun and entertaining and quick. And, that's what's needed. No one's going to listen to thousands and thousands of podcasts like I have and you probably have, right? No one's going to do this, read books and go to conferences and, oh man, look at studies. It's too much. So we just have to get it into a package that people will watch. And by the end, it's going to be super obvious. They're like, oh my God, it's so true. Of course, the processed foods is a problem. It's not the meat we've always been eating. Like, this is insane. It gets so insane when you think about it, like once you know this stuff.
I think the most insane thing is that we have people pushing lab-grown meat and crickets as being healthy forms of protein. And there's groups of people that we probably all see that are like, yeah, this is a good idea. It's never been a good idea, whether you're watching sci-fi or horror movies. Like, it's never a good idea to grow food in a lab. So that said, I want to go back to the first question we asked you about vegan meat being a good alternative. Can you specifically tell us, the nutrients, the nutrient value, what that profile looks like, and why an Impossible Burger really is impossible for our body to recognize as food?
That's a good one. Yeah. Well, I've interviewed some great scientists on this. One coming to mind is Dr. Stefan von Vliet. He's in the lab using mass spectrometry to look at these compounds, and there's tens of thousands of secondary compounds in foods that we don't know about, right? The primary compounds is like, okay, fat, protein, like that's, amino acids. Yeah, we know that. They're finding tens of thousands of secondary compounds, and they're finding that it's nothing like the fake vegan meats, nothing like real meat. There's so much that goes into real meat. There's a cow that grows for years on the land, eating its natural diet and, forming the food that they eat into food that we can eat. Like, this is not an easy process. It's kind of like alchemy. People know the story of alchemy, right? People trying to turn lead into gold. It's not going to work. It's just not possible. Or even the amount of inputs that it would take. I mean, they're getting theoretically close, but they don't have all the same inputs, right? They don't have all the secondary compounds. It's not nowhere as nutritious. But I'm skipping to the sort of environmental impact, because that's what they're trying to claim. It's better for the environment. But that's where the alchemy part comes in again. You can't put in all these inputs from a lab and you have all these solutions and antibiotics and refrigeration required. The refrigeration alone is more of an environmental impact than a cow on grass, right? Like, people don't understand that this is all a scam. It's fake. There was a study that came out that fake meat is 25 times worse for the environment. Try to find that for the show notes, but it's 25x. This was, I think, last week. It's not better for the environment. It's not better for you. It's impossible. It's alchemy. I'm telling you, it's alchemy. How would it be possible to get all those nutrients, those tens of thousands of secondary compounds that come from an animal, a cow, ruminant, whatever, sheep, goat, whatever kind of animal that's foraging for food and getting hundreds of different plant species and all these different nutrients that it needs and getting it into its body. And then there's a bioavailability factor too. People have heard that term. It's just basic science that animal tissue, animal food is more bioavailable to humans, right? It's in the form that we can digest. It is more complete. It has more of the amino acids we need, and it's more bioavailable, meaning our body can use them better. So no matter what, if you make whatever kind of fake meat substitute and you could put in 5,000 different little nutrients and ingredients, it's still not going to be the same as the real form in the animal form, because our bodies just aren't set up to extract that nutrition from plant foods.
We're compromising our health for an ideology, I think is the way that we can surmise it. Because at the end of the day, we do have everything that we need available through nature. And rarely has man ever created something that nature produces and done a better job of it. You know, I think there's a reason why, like, God made it perfect. He put it on the earth perfectly for us, for our consumption and to use. And it seems like we are just bypassing that because people have ideologies and throwing temper tantrums over, the thing that they believe it should be or the way things should be. And here we find ourselves.
Well, and on that environmental impact, I would love for you to dive in there. I listened to an interview you did where you talked about the fact that cows are good for the environment. Animals are actually good for the soil quality. And I think that that's so glaringly obvious for us right now, sitting in New York with these crazy wildfires and this smoke totally polluting, the New York City skyline. I mean, we've had orange and yellow skies here for the last couple of days. And I said to Mike, I'm like, we're worried about a cow. We're worried about a cow, and we've polluted the entire Northeast with fire smoke. So can you just talk about the fact that cows are not necessarily bad for the environment?
Yeah. What you're both were talking about is you can't cheat nature. This is a big topic. And so you can't cheat nature by, trying to grow food in a lab. You can't, like I always say, we're never gonna have a pill that's gonna make you let you sleep 4 hours, but it'll be like you slept 8 hours. There's never gonna be a food that's as good as just natural foods. You're never gonna build a machine that lifts weights for you that's gonna be like make you strong. It doesn't make sense. The whole point is you lift the weight. That's how you get strong. So you can't cheat nature. I mean, yes, you can make an airplane, and that's different, right? But the fundamentals of being human, you can't cheat nature on those fundamentals of being human, right? Like that, like sleep, exercise, food. You can cheat nature. Okay, we can fly across the world. That's different. That's not a fundamental human thing. So with the environment, it's the same thing. Is you can't cheat nature. It's kind of the opposite sense. It's like nature had it correct, or God, whatever we call nature. I'm sort of just leaving it open, that there's animals on grass, and that's how nature works, right? These animals have lived on grass for their whole life, and they've evolved together, and they eat grass, and the grass benefits from their manure, and even the cows biting the grass stimulates them, and the saliva, and there's all these other interactions that go on that help the grass grow. And for all of history, it worked. And then we came along and tried to make it more productive, which we did, right? We do have methods of growing animals faster and putting them in feedlots. And I mean, that's not good. I mean, we don't want to have the cow off the grass in a bunch of mud and, just gathered together in a big group eating it's actually pretty efficient because they do eat like kind of leftover crops and leftover things from other industries, but it's not good. It's not what they're supposed to be eating, and it's not helping the grass grow and the soil have health. So yes, if we kind of go back, it's kind of always the old ways were correct, the old how we've always done it. We have cows on grass, moving them around, that it actually puts carbon back in the soil. It actually puts nutrients back in the soil. It helps the water retention stay in the soil. So if there's a flood, there's these great videos and other things you can look for online that you have someone doing regenerative ag or having like actual, cows on grass and land that's soil that's healthy. And then the guy next to them does industrial ag, or they're doing corn, wheat, soy fields. The rains come, it all just floods, the dirt erodes away. The rain can't soak up into the soil. And then on the other side, it's fine. And you can see it just soaking up into the grass. And this is what's supposed to happen. Oh, there's so many different reasons why when you do things correctly, it is good for the environment, right? It's just nature and God, whatever you call it, had it correct.
Yeah, everything just seems to work itself out. Whereas, in the instance of like industrializing food, I mean, we're just constantly trying to put out fires, and most of the fires that we're trying to put out, unfortunately, is our health, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we are at like an all-time high in terms of obesity and rates of type 2 diabetes, and everybody's looking at each other like, oh, what are we going to do? Oh, let's create a new food or a new food group to try to battle this, and that'll be better for everyone. And yet, if we just went back to the basics, I mean, that's essentially what it comes down to. I want to come back to the movie as well, just because
Mm-hmm.
you have interviewed a great number of people, and I was just wondering, this was my own personal curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
6 years into this now, has some of the, I don't want to call it a delay because it may be intentional, but like, has part of what you've come up against is that there has been so much information that has come out or that has changed since you started producing the movie
Mm-hmm.
that has caused you to maybe take this long to get it
Mm-hmm.
completed?
Yeah, that's part of it for sure. Part of it is we don't have $1 million to just do it. This was no one who's going to fund that. There's no industry that gains from that. So the world kind of makes sense once I got in. I have a regenerative meat business called Nose to Tail, and I quickly found out that's a great way to not make money because there's no money in raising good meat or good whole foods at all. You're never going to make money. All the money is in the processed foods, pharmaceuticals, all these different things. They make all the money, then they control the world, right? They can fund studies, they can do lobbying, they can do all the marketing campaigns. So that's how the world works. A quick aside, and that's why we don't have any money to make this film, right? And that's why the Game Changers, well, James Cameron, who produced Game Changers, had 160 million. It was 140 or 160 million in a fake pea protein company, right? So like there's so much money in this that it's an uphill battle. So yeah, so that's one reason is we don't have money. Two is things have changed. It's actually, I'm very glad that it took this long. I've even changed my thinking. Okay, one is a lot of new studies have come out, and so there's been a lot of good things, right? New studies, new scientists, new doctors coming on, new agriculture studies even that weren't around back then that are proving that regenerative agriculture actually does help the environment. So lots of good stuff has happened since, and part of that has been, yes, my evolution of thinking. There is a broader picture of how we are healthy, and it doesn't have to be just one diet. So in the beginning, it's, I was kind of more into this one way of eating. And then I realized, oh, this is just one way of eating in a spectrum of good ways of eating. Right.
How
So
was
I
that?
kind of,
How were you eating?
so it's more just like low carb, just keto, low carb, there was this sort of evolution of paleo to like kind of paleo low carb. And then there's like keto, then carnivore. And there's kind of this thing that happened along the way. And I mean, I never just like jumped into the camp and was like, oh, this is the only way to do it. But I took in all that information, tried different things, and made tweaks. But basically, what I found is that you don't have to go keto to be healthy. I realized, oh, this is what you're doing. You're cutting out a bunch of refined carbs, a bunch of added sugars. You're probably not eating a bunch of seed oils because you've understood that these, the natural fats are better. So yes, there's a ton of good reasons, and keto's an amazing plan if you want to do it, right? It's a good way, but it's like you don't have to do it. Or these are like tools. Like carnivore can be a tool. Like carnivore, if you have like a gut issue and you have, like, I know lots of people personally that reverse Crohn's and ulcerative colitis and all these like crazy IBS problems and gut diseases. and completely are fine now because they went completely carnivore, right? And it makes sense. And I don't have to be completely carnivore, and I feel great, just doing my animal-based diet with other whole foods on the side. So yes, that's part of the evolution of thinking, and I think it really helped make this film series going to be so much better and more impactful because we're not trying to say, oh, this is just a one way of doing it. And I've seen over the years through my research and making the film, I've watched dozens and dozens of movies, and they're all just like keto's the way, or it's like this is paleo is the way, or of course vegan is the way, or that they always have these like things where like this is the solution to all your problems, but that's not really accurate. It's if you want to get into even the carb part, I mean, there's so many different populations that do eat higher carb and are fine because they're eating real foods. You know what I mean? Like there's very few of them, right? We're talking about like people on remote islands in the Pacific or like Okinawa in the 1970s where they were just eating sweet potatoes and fish and vegetables and they were great and some pork and they're perfectly healthy. I'm like, yeah, what's wrong with that? They're eating all whole foods, they're getting good animal nutrition. Of course they're healthy. This is not debunking my idea. But if I was just in this keto camp, then that would debunk my idea, right? So that's why it's been really beneficial to have more time to make this film. It's gotten better. We've gotten more resources, gotten better graphics, have better ideas, and I think it's going to be undebunkable. That's kind of the goal, right? Just preemptively thinking about everything that someone could debunk. Even Lane Norton. Have you guys heard of Lane Norton, the fitness guy?
Known him
So
for a
he's
while.
kind of a figure online that many people don't like. A lot of people do like, right? He's just a guy. So our idea was the low carb community especially doesn't like him. So I'm like, we're gonna make a film that Lane Norton can't debunk, right? And so like it kind of changed our thinking. And then I started because I had him on my show like 5 years ago, and then we were like kind of in an online war, and then I became friends with him again, kind of. And now, I was like, what if we got Lane in the film? And so we were just with him in Denver, and we filmed with him. And yeah, he's a nice guy, and it's all good. And I think that's going to help make a better film, right? We're like bringing in all sides, like what can we agree on? And he can agree on a lot.
You know what? I mean, I think that's great, and I think we can all appreciate having like a wide ranging of viewpoints on it, and everybody coming to one solid agreement. And I think that the solid agreement, as you've pointed out, is if we're sticking predominantly with whole foods, staying away from the man-made stuff, I mean, we're going to be good. And it's just funny because, with our background that also started in natural bodybuilding, similar to Lane, we rode that wave of getting into the best shape ever, following a very low fat, very high carbohydrate diet, totally ripped up and shredded, to now following more of a primal, animal based, even carnivore style of eating. And it's just interesting because I think that we could both to attest we've gotten results doing both.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, though, the question is, okay, what do you feel best doing? And I think that's the difference, is we could point to maybe looking a little bit better going the one route,
Mm-hmm.
but feeling a heck of a lot better and not having to do all that crazy stuff.
We just
today.
ate 2 grass-fed ribeye steaks before we came on here. So obviously, that's what makes us feel best.
I was literally picking feet out
Oh,
of
mate, that's so true. And that's still the arguments I have with him still, it's just like, yes, I get it. Technically it's true. Calorie deficit, I get it. Right. But so many people have these problems from eating these diets, and you could destroy your gut, and maybe you're not getting as many nutrients that way too. Right. If you're low fat, these things don't manifest for many years. Right. That's my main argument with him, is like, okay, that's all fine and good. And technically, yes, you can get shredded, all that. I get it. But 10 years from now, 20 years from now, it's so hard to calculate this stuff. And our group, I think, is on the side of, but we feel better, that even on paper, the nutrient density is better on our diet, right? And there's so many other benefits to this. So I just would wish that he would acknowledge that more.
Down to, doing something for the short term, which is what most researchers do, is you're talking about 8 to 16 week studies, or doing studies on lab mice and saying, well, this is the result that we've shown. It's like, that's true, but we also have to scale this out and be human about it. Say, well, how applicable is this over somebody's lifetime? And I
Mhm.
would say that that's the biggest difference that we've noticed is, yes, you can do it one way and achieve great results, but was that sustainable? No. For a lot of us, it drives us out of this um, natural bodybuilding scene because nobody wants to, keep up with the psychological warfare that goes on with having
Mhm.
to maintain that style of eating. And so that is another component. But I think that this is actually a good opportunity for you to talk a little bit about, satiety, right?
Mhm.
And one of the questions was based around
Mhm.
fat loss being tied to satiety, and I know that this is something that you often discuss.
Yeah, all of this stuff is in the film too of what's going to be doable for life. What are you going to enjoy for life? That is actually a huge topic, right? It's like that we're all humans, right? We all have desires. We don't want to be restricted. We don't want to be on some diet, right? Like there's a huge portion of the film just really addressing this and the deeper root causes of why a diet can work or not, or a way of eating. And satiety and nutrient density are the heart of that. I think that's so important. And it's almost like they're just go hand in hand. And so basically, nutrient density and satiety, it's well, okay, I'll do it separate. Satiety is feeling full, right? It's a long-term fullness. And that why why do people overeat? No one wants to overeat, yet so many people have. And it's not just that they overeat calories, right? I hate that idea of just, oh, well, you overate calories. You ate too many calories and now you're fat. There's so much more to the story. There's different kinds of that's where nutrient density comes in, right? There's nutrient calories and there's energy calories. So this is a simple way that we've broken it down, and I'm glad it took so long to do this film, is because I think we've got like this very nice mental model that people will see, and we'll do it visually, and everything will make sense once you see this mental model of nutrient calories, protein, vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids, right? These are the nutrients. This is what your body wants. Then there's energy calories, mostly fats and carbs, right? Fats, can be essential as well. So, but mainly your body wants nutrients. It wants the nutrient calories, right? It wants these protein, vitamin, minerals, bioavailable forms of that. And that's all it wants. And it wants enough energy to run itself for the day. Most people are doing the exact opposite. They're not getting enough protein, vitamins, minerals, all that. And they're getting too many energy calories. They're getting more of the quote empty calories, we can call them, fats or carbs, that aren't necessary to get them through the day. So if you do that, then your body has to store the fat. But if you're getting enough protein, vitamins, minerals, of these nutrient calories, you're not going to have a problem. And you can actually overeat a little bit and your body will make up for it. Overeat, quote, overeat. You know what I mean? It's not like you or I, we're like, oh, how many calories did that ribeye have? Oh no, like we can't. No, it works out naturally because your body doesn't care. If you're eating the real foods, this is where the satiety comes in. You're full for the correct amount of time, right? And your body gets what it needs and it stops eating and you're satiated and you don't need to eat again. So I'll put another perspective. Losing fat, right? That's what we're talking about, not just losing weight, right? You don't just lose weight, you don't lose muscle, which is what happens if you don't eat enough protein. And vegan diets, these people are emaciated. Yes, they're losing weight, but it's not good. You want to lose fat. So I'm glad you said lose fat, not lose weight, right? So if you want to lose fat, it's a battle of hunger, right? If you're 50 pounds overweight, it's going to be a battle of hunger to lose that weight, lose that fat. And most people lose it, right? They try to go on a restrictive diet, doesn't work. So how do you win that battle is through satiety, through nutrient density, through getting all the proteins, vitamins, minerals you need for less calories, right? It's a little bit nerdy if you think about the engine, because I'm a mechanical engineer, right? It's like, how do I get all the proteins, vitamins, minerals I need for less empty calories? Well, that's my diet. I eat eggs and fish and liver and steak and avocado and sauerkraut and pickles. All these foods have all the nutrients I need, and they don't have just extra calories that my body doesn't need. And more importantly, they don't have extra calories or empty calories from the worst ingredients like vegetable oils, right? All these fake seed oils, refined sugars, refined grains, right? These are just the worst kind of empty calories. So I think that made sense, right? Tying together nutrient density, satiety, the concept of nutrients versus energy, that you got to think of your diet. Also, you think of your diet over a longer course of time, say a month. You don't think of it as a meal or a day. That's not, your body doesn't work that in that short of a time period. Over the course of a month, I get all the nutrients I need and the right amount of energy. I have a high nutrient dense diet over the course of that month. If I eat some like nice ice cream that I made that has raw milk and honey or something, something like that, it's okay. Because for the other 29 days, I'm not like gorging on that, right? And it's like my nutrient to energy ratio over time is great. And my body results in a great physique, right? Not that I'm like exceptional physique or anything, but this is a natural thing what humans, can look like. I look more like my hunter-gatherer ancestors. I don't have excess fat. I have some muscle. It works for me, right? So it's because I have the correct nutrient density over time. And I don't have to worry about one day where I eat some ice cream, because over time I'm thinking about nutrient density and I'm eating the correct foods.
Makes a lot of sense, especially when you look back at those pictures of people on the beach in the 1950s and everyone looks like an in shape person today. I mean, it really is mind boggling. When you said that, Brian, all I could think about is, isn't it fascinating that 100-calorie packs are required for processed foods, but I've never seen a 100-calorie pack of meat, eggs, or chicken, right? But we don't have to limit that.
It's amazing. One of my favorite posts I ever made was 90 calories, quote, 90 calories sells a lot better than 30 ingredients. Convincing the world to count calories instead of ingredients is the most profitable scheme in history.
Wow.
Right? It's like, just think about it. They put, 100-calorie packs, and then you look at the pack and it's 30 ingredients. It's just all a scheme. It's all a scam. And you're right. Yes, when you eat correctly, you should not. No one through history in the 1950s, they weren't counting calories. Are you kidding? Like, no one was counting calories. Like, we think just because in the last 30 years, this whole thing has been pushed because everyone's eating the wrong foods and Weight Watchers and Jenny Craig. Oh my, that is unheard of before the 80s.
I love this topic, especially around calories, because people get so caught up in it, and we're always the first to promote not counting calories. Like, forget about the macro the calculator and the MyFitnessPal and having to track every little thing that you eat. But what you said before is, if you're eating the right foods, if you're eating nutrient dense foods and you're, quote, overeating, we'll just call it overeating. We know it's not. But the reason why it's not overeating is because when you are getting the right nutrients into your body, then your body senses like, oh, we have this extra energy available. Let's go use it. And it's not just this calculation of you took in this many calories, so you have to expend this many calories. There is this hormonal component as well, where when you're feeding your body the right way, your hormonal system, will trigger and increase your metabolic rate. And you'll find the need to utilize more energy. So now you just become a more productive human being, even though you are supposedly overeating by somebody's standards. But, at the end of the day, it's kind of hard to overeat really good food. And I think that also ties into the question that we brought up about tastiness of food, right? I mean, I know this is like also a trigger, and it falls right in line with satiety, that people believe that if something is tasty, then it must not be good for you.
Yes, this is a good one to go into because it kind of can go both ways. It's absolutely can go both way. And I'll skip to the answer. If it's a natural food and it tastes good, then it's good. If it's a fake food and it tastes good, then it's probably bad. It's actually very simple. It goes into what have food manufacturers and food engineers done for the past, I don't know, 50 years when they started really getting into making hyper palatable foods and using fake flavors and fake ingredients to get people to eat more. right? And so there, yes, there's huge industries and millions and billions of dollars going into making tasty foods to trick people into eating more, basically to make money. And there's actually a great book called Mark Schatzker called The Dorito Effect. Really good book to really goes into this. And I've interviewed him twice. And it kind of goes to the nutrient density, even thing about that humans have this natural desire for nutrient dense foods, and you maybe can't even taste it, but your body can sense it, right? And they've done studies on animals that show that they can actually sense what nutrients they're lacking, and they go for more of those foods, even if it's blinded, right? They don't know which foods, they will naturally go to the one that they need. So humans have that. And basically what the Dorito is a good example of making fake flavors. So making it trick your body into thinking that it's getting nutrients, right? Because something that's very savory and delicious tasting for all of history meant it had a lot of nutrients. But now in a Dorito, it means nothing. There's no nutrients in a Dorito. It's like, how could it get worse? You have monocrop corn with soybean oil dumped on it and fake flavors. So your body, you can eat a whole bag. That's the whole point, right? You can eat once you pop, you can't stop. Bet you can't eat just one. The whole thing is super low nutrient food, no protein, barely at all, tons of fake flavors. Your body keeps eating them, and it's never satiated because it's not getting what it wants. But the alternatives to that is, and the great thing is that if you're eating the right foods, like a big juicy ribeye and all these other foods that we enjoy in our little cool kids club, is it's delicious. It's amazing. It's every day. I can't believe I get to eat these plates of food. I eat this giant buffet of delicious things and I feel amazing. And so, yeah, that is another big message of the film was like, how are you going to do this for life? How are you going to be healthy for life? You have to enjoy it. Right. And so and these foods are enjoyable. It's just, they've told you that the enjoyable foods are bad. Bacon, eggs, cheese, you know what I mean? Like these kind of foods, they're telling everyone they're bad.
So let's talk about a practical situation, right? I mean, I believe you also coach people around nutrition, and what we often come up against are somebody who shows up who's been having a lifetime of eating processed foods, and now you're trying to encourage them to make this shift over to eating nutrient dense meats and such, and there's a resistance there, right? And people are trying to overcome an addiction oftentimes. So I mean, is there anything from a practical point of view that you try to do, or you would encourage somebody who's listening right now about how to make that jump? I think in this conversation, it does have to do with taste. So maybe for us, we don't require a lot of ingredients, right, for a particular food to taste good. But what about that individual who's coming from that other end of the spectrum?
It's hard. Yeah. So I do have some things. It's been a journey for me as well. It's not like day one, 9 years ago, it was instantly done. So yes, I was on this path, and I've gotten better and better over the years. And now, without me using any willpower, I have no desire to go to restaurants anymore or get any kind of convenient food or anything. Before, I mean, even 3 years ago, I still wanted to go get like a Chipotle burrito. Not that that's the end of the world. I don't know. It's like some people say it's fine, some people maybe not. But 3 years ago, I'm like, oh man, I just played beach volleyball for 3 hours. I'm gonna go get me a decent steak burrito, and it's not the end of the world. Now I don't even think about that. There's no willpower that I need to pass by a Chipotle. I just go home and make my food because it tastes better, because I like it better, because I feel better. You know what I mean? There's a big difference between you white knuckling it, right? Using willpower, like, oh man, I wish I could go to Chipotle, or it's like, oh, this special treat. It's like, oh, I did play a lot of beach volleyball today. I deserve a Chipotle. No, it's not in my realm of existence anymore. Sure, if we have someone's birthday and we're going to go out to dinner, I'll go out and we'll eat a steak, and I'll eat at the restaurant, fine. But I'm not like going there on my own. I have no desire. So how do you get there is the question. Time, yeah, time. You gotta like slowly cut it out. You need to know why you're doing it. You need to know these health consequences, right? Know more. Maybe some people need to know more about why, right? They need to study why the seed oils are going to harm them long term, and why these fake ingredients could mess up their gut. And then then you have the more of that motivation to not eat those foods. Some people may need to just slowly cut them out and then like really notice how they feel, and maybe how they feel can determine that, like, I didn't fall asleep at 2 p.m. like every other day, like you're sitting at your desk and you feel terrible. Like, wow, what did I ate just meat and eggs, and now I had energy all day, and so some of it's the trial and error, some of it's learning why you're doing this. Some of it could be even long term of like, well, I need to be around for my grandkids. I need to be able to walk and not be in a wheelchair when I'm older. If you think of these long term things, then that can help motivate you. And I guess some of it is learning simple cooking methods, right? It's not like I'm some expert cook, but my food is better than most restaurants, not because I'm an expert cook, is because I learned how to cook a steak really well. And I have I cook some onions and mushrooms with it, and it just tastes so good. Right. So if some people they're just not into cooking, well, get into cooking, because this is how you're going to save your life. And yeah, maybe, I mean, it's just so hard to find takeout food, or there's some meal preps that might be okay, but really, you just need to start cooking for yourself.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, when we talk about going out, we actually don't like to go out at all anymore. Also, all I could think about is the tap water with chlorine on the table, which I will never drink, and then the plates that are probably still laden with like dishwasher detergent from the kitchen, and then God knows where the food is coming from. It's like, how can anyone even eat at a restaurant anymore? It's so bad for you. But you do. I think that there's such a big component to growing up, cooking food, preparing your food. I mean, one of the biggest things for us with our boys is we include them in the kitchen. He includes them on the grill, making them a part of making their food. And I think even more important is for people to understand where food comes from. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Yeah. I think that's great. I killed my first turkey 2 years ago for Thanksgiving, and I actually had to do it. And you slice the neck and you drain the blood, and then I plucked the thing and got the organs out. And then all of a sudden it was in its bag, and it looked exactly like the grocery store. And I was like, whoa, this is so cool. This is exactly like the grocery store. They're like, yeah, I know. That's yeah, exactly. You just, you do that, you cut the thing off, and then it's like, that's so yeah, I had to go on that journey to no, and I think people should do stuff like that. And I think they have for all of history. I did a presentation once at some conference, and I used that example of, I don't know what year, before 1900, every kid saw a dozen animals being killed before they could talk, right? They saw a chicken being killed. They saw maybe a meat rabbit, or they were around for how their food was made, and there were no vegans. There were no vegans. It was in the context of like, why are there vegans? Well, because people don't know where their food comes from anymore. If you're this separated from food, I always make the joke of the vegan in Santa Monica drinking the soy milk latte, because I used to live right in Santa Monica. It's just, they have no idea. They have no idea where their food comes from. So of course they can, think they're morally superior and being a vegan and helping when they're not doing anything at all. So yes, learn that.
What I really appreciate though about what you were talking about just moments ago in terms of progressing, right? I even just think about our journey, specifically around eating primal. We were always eating high protein, more animal based. That was never an issue. There was probably more processed foods in there that needed to be. But I even just think about myself in this regard, like I was starting on third base, already had a good base underneath me. So this wasn't going to be a big stretch. Yet at the same time, I found myself early on still needing to have some ketchup on things. Oh, sriracha sauce went on every protein. I mean, that had been a staple. But the interesting thing is that once starting the process, well, eventually I just lost my taste for those things. And I'm saying this more to encourage people, because people are probably thinking, well, that's great. Brian, Corrie-Beth, Mike, I mean, you guys have superior willpower. And, just because you made this decision and got educated around it, like you were able to take that leap. And it's not like that. We've never seen it with anybody we've worked with, that somebody makes the leap overnight, that it truly is a journey that is going to take you years, which shouldn't scare anyone, because God willing, you're going to be living out many, many, not just years, but decades of life. And so, what's the big deal if you start now and struggle through it a little bit, but eventually knowing that, hey, I'm going to get better. We all suck at first, no matter what it
Mhm.
is that we do. Everybody starts sucking at something. And then they eventually get a little bit better at that something until maybe they become an expert, if you will. So I just say that as that
Mm.
little bit of encouragement for those out there.
I do. I love this. It's better on the other side. The change is hard. It's better on the other side. Just the change is uncomfortable. It's kind of like if you got a new job, it's super nerve-wracking going to a new job and learning all the new systems. But usually, you get this new job, it's better later. A year later, you're like, oh man, I have so many friends. Like, this is such a better job. The change part is hard though, right? But then getting there, the end result is so much better. And yes, I do not use sauces anymore. It's crazy. I never thought I'd get here either. I just sit down with a plate of food. Some egg yolk might be my sauce. Actually, my only thing that is like that is I have just jalapenos. Like, I just have like a tub of jalapenos. It's just, there's no ingredients. It's just vinegar and salt or something. And I eat jalapenos. So I mean, if anyone's listening and they're like, yeah, I want to dump hot sauce on everything, like, okay, make good food and have a few jalapenos on the side. It's great. I don't need sauces. I never thought I'd get here.
Wow.
Yeah, I think we could all say that it's been quite a journey. What I want to just kind of jump to now is, since we made mention of it, is exercise. And I think that from what I've listened to from you, you have very similar philosophy as ourselves. But why don't you fill everybody in? Like, what's your workout routine now?
Okay, so I just remembered I used to say my tagline a lot: eat densely, move intensely. So instead, eat less, move more. Terrible advice, pointless, stupid, terrible. Tells you nothing. Tells you absolutely nothing. Oh, make more money? Oh yeah, just spend less than you make. Great advice, buddy. So eat densely, move intensely is good advice. It's actionable. So we already covered eat densely, everything we've been talking about, right? Eat nutrient dense foods. Got it. So move intensely is the second half of that. And humans have always done this. We have not had to work out, quote. We just did intense things, or we walked. We had to sprint, and we climbed, and we lifted rocks and trees, and we sprinted and we walked. And that's what I do. And I am in better shape than anything my whole life. And I do far less exercise than I've ever done. I used to do the whole thing, the cardio, and you spend like 45 minutes on these jogs and all that. No, I do two 25-minute workouts. That's my whole gym for the entire week, is two 25-minute workouts. And then, yes, I play beach volleyball on Saturday for 3 hours. Well, that's it. And then maybe I'll walk, right? I can go, it's always good to walk, right? And yeah, I don't know. It's so simple. It's like I move intensely for 25 minutes. To get more specific, yeah, I do compound movements. I use dumbbells, and I use a method called drop sets to failure. So say you grab like 70-pound dumbbells, and you can do like a bench press with the dumbbells, then drop them, do it until I can't do them anymore. Then grab the 60-pound dumbbells, do it immediately. Just do them until I can't anymore. Throw those down, grab the 50-pound dumbbells, and then do it till I can't anymore. Boom. I just did a very good chest workout. I went to failure. I told my muscles to get bigger. It's not like you're going to become a professional bodybuilder doing this, but everyone asks me what my workout is, because it's working. Like, everyone thinks.
I'm going to interrupt you right there. That is his routine, and he was a professional bodybuilder. So I'm just saying, you could become a professional bodybuilder doing
Wow.
exactly
Well, yeah.
that.
Yeah, you can. And you probably just put in a little more effort than I am. I'm doing kind of like the baseline minimal stuff, but yeah, maybe
Awesome.
that's why I say just 2 times a week for 25 minutes. That'll get you places. Most people will go a lot. And I'm sure Mike, yeah, you could do 4 times a week, 5 times a week, simple workouts. No, if you want to do more, do
three.
more. Wow.
The big joke had always been, when people ask or they find out, like, oh, you competed as a bodybuilder, like, so how, train hours a week, hours a day? I was like, no, I literally, for the last 25 years of my life, have never trained more than 90 minutes in an entire week.
Mm.
even competing on, the highest
Wow.
stages and such. And I'm no genetic freak by any means. I always the smallest guy, right? Always the lightest guy by about 20 to 30 pounds.
But shredded.
But, you know, for me, it was also trying to prove a point around our fitness model. I mean, our franchise is built around the concept of doing no more than 2 to 3 30-minute resistance training workouts per week. And very much in the fashion that you're talking about, very high intensity. We are very influenced by Arthur Jones of Nautilus, Doug McGuff, Mike Menser back in the day, even Dorian Yates for a while. That has always been the focus. And, it's hard for people to conceptualize that, but yet, just like you're saying, it ties directly back to our ancestors and what they were doing. I mean, granted, they weren't going to a commercial gym, but there was plenty of heavy manual labor that they had to do just in order to survive. But it wasn't like they were going and doing that every single day. It would be maybe a couple days a week, or if it was on a daily activity, it was something for a very short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And we can take that same concept and apply it today, and it works just as well. And that's why, I was very encouraged. I want everybody to know we didn't bring Brian on as a ringer. He had no idea with the question he was going to be, how
I
we
know.
were going to respond to his answer. I think it's awesome that, even that message, especially today, needs to get out there, that people need to be more time efficient with their exercise. And a colleague of ours, we listened to him talk yesterday and said something that made a lot of sense. It's like people are always worried about doing hours and hours of exercise, yet when you consider how many hours you have available in a week, even if you're doing 7 hours compared to, let's say, 1 hour a week, percentage wise, you're still not doing that much more, and it's not contributing anymore to your development. So it's like, why even spend the extra 7 hours?
That's interesting. Well, yeah, I'm all about it. Again, the engineering mindset too. It's like effective, like how quick and effective, right? It's efficiency. And that's what you're talking about. Yeah, it's not very, it's a point of diminishing return, kind of. If you don't need to do more than a couple, like 90 minutes, whatever. It's like you're going to get incrementally smaller results after that aren't really worth the time investment.
Absolutely. That's great.
I have a random question to throw in here at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, on one of your interviews, you talked about nitrates. This is one of those other buzzwords that people are like, oh, I can't have bacon or I can't have hot dogs because of nitrates. And this actually blew my mind when you compared the amount of nitrates in hot dogs to the amount of nitrates in arugula. Do you mind sharing that?
Well, yeah. So arugula, yeah, celery too. Okay, so there are natural forms of nitrates which are from celery powder. So yeah, celery, arugula, these things have whatever, 10, 100x times the nitrates that are in bacon. So it's just one of these scare tactics, kind of just things that vegans use. I mean, yes, I don't want to eat like cheap Oscar Mayer hot dogs. You know what I mean? I'm not going to eat that, but I will eat bacon or sausage that's like good quality meat. And then yes, you can use celery powder as nitrates, and it's the same thing. It's like partly because people get so myopic. The studies done these days, it's almost like they're reverse engineering. They're trying to prove why meat is bad. And so they get very myopic, and they're like, okay, well, let's look at nitrates. Maybe it's nitrates, and then they do all these studies, and they're like, oh, people who eat more nitrates are heavier and they have more disease. I'm like, yeah, people who are like guzzling hot dogs and sodas from gas stations are heavier and they have more disease. This is a correlation, but they do this with TMAO. If you've heard of that, these people, they're trying to say that red meat has, TMAO and this is a bad thing. And all the vegan and plant-based people are trying to use this. I'm like, no, there's more TMAO in fish. Like, you guys all think that fish is good. All the studies, like Mediterranean diet's good. It's not it. It's just the modern scientific world is bought and paid for. It's people trying to prove their point they already have, and they try to look at tiny little things like nitrates or TMAO or like mTOR. Hopefully people haven't even heard of these things, because don't even worry about them. Just know that it's like, if you're eating real foods, you don't have to worry about mTOR, right? It's like, this is just some David Sinclair, like kind of plant leaning longevity guy trying to scare you about eating meat. It's not true.
Let me just ask one more question, because on the back of that, yes, we know that if we follow the money in any industry, we will come to the answer of why something is being pushed or I guess like made, what's the word I'm looking for, Mike?
Well, it's being held up on a
Or
pedestal.
Why do you think,
popularized, yeah.
thank you, that was the word.
Mhm.
Why do you think that so many of these people have jumped on this bandwagon and become so like zealots in this, like you gotta eat vegan, you gotta eat vegan? Do you think it's like an ego thing? Is there some other like the movie Game
Mm,
Changers? Like, do they own a pea protein company that we just don't know about, and that's why they're promoting? Like,
mm,
why do you think it is that people become such zealots for
mm.
vegetables?
Oh wow. Too much for the end of the podcast here. No, I think I learned a lot about how the world worked in the last 3 years. I don't know if other people woke up to kind of more of how the worlds work. I'm just like, oh man, things are kind of not how they seem. There's bigger forces out there. Okay. So I think if you really want to talk about that, it's there are big world forces that have an agenda, and it is more about controlling the food supply, controlling the population, and everything that's opposite of that that we do, eating natural foods, eating meat, being healthy, goes against that agenda. So I hope I don't sound like a tinfoil hat guy, but I think this is like kind of obvious these days.
Nobody wears a bigger one than her. So
Okay.
don't worry. We're more than welcome to go down
Oh,
this road.
so
So
this
let's
is, I
do it.
mean, but this makes sense though. Once I started realizing it on a world scale, that why are these agendas being pushed? Because the greed scale is kind of just one level below that. Like, yes, corporations want to make money. Yes, this all about food, and Doritos just wants to make more money. But above that, there's even more greed and power and agendas that are pushing this, and then they prey on human nature. So you asked about what else is going on, or the human emotion part, or people feeling morally superior even by oh well, I'm vegan, so I'm not hurting animals, right? And I think that some of these messages start at the top, where they want to control this agenda and have more control, so then they can prey on people's human emotions and make them think certain things, like make them think that they're being healthier by doing this, or make them think they're going to help the environment by doing this, right? So that's a new message too, is eat less meat to save the environment, right? I think this is just a bogus agenda as well, right? They're trying to prey on human emotion and make people feel like they're a better person if they're avoiding meat, or going along with this agenda of like eating the crickets, like eat the bugs.
Somewhat sad in a way. Like people don't think that powers that be could be this nefarious, and yet the reality is that there is evil out in the world, and guess what? It's right there. It's closer than you think, and people really. I mean, we hope people are starting to open up their eyes and see that this is really happening, and food plays a bigger role in this than people could ever imagine. I mean, like you said, it's not just about greed. Sure, like I'm a capitalist. I'm
Mm,
all about, somebody making as much money as they can as long as they're doing it, in a righteous way. But there are people who not just are unwilling to do it in a righteous way, but they are out for power.
Yeah.
Like they
mm,
want to have control. And you see what food does to people. I mean, we've watched over the past several decades people follow what they've been told to do, and where has it led us? I mean, it has not gotten better, and now everybody's just trying to cover up their lies and say that they're trying to present us with false evidence that what they've been saying all along is correct, even
mm.
though there's so much to refute it.
True.
And we just hope that people like wake up to this stuff and recognize that, hey, first step, take control of your own health. Right, first step, like take control of you. Stop worrying about what everybody else is doing, what everybody else's agenda is. Like focus on you, because when you take care of yourself, well, then you're capable of helping to take care of other people, next being your family. And this is exactly what you've done yourself. Right, you took care of yourself, and now you're taking care of communities of people by spreading the message in multiple ways in great media. I'm going to encourage everybody, like, go find Brian on Instagram, go follow Food Lies, because, you know, I love the stuff that you put out. I mean, I can't help myself. Every time I put it, I'm like, oh, it's so good. I'm like, I wish I thought of that. Like, or I
Love
wish
it.
I found that, because, you know, you really are an advocate for people. And I think that's what, you know, we hope people see, is that we are not saying these things because we have any hidden agenda ourselves. It's that
We have nothing to gain.
we have nothing to
We own
gain.
no cows. We own no chickens. We have no farm. Like, we have
Yeah.
nothing to gain from this.
Yeah. Just want to see
Like you.
people be
Be
healthy,
healthy.
you
Yes.
know?
Live healthy lives.
I love it. That's it. Yeah, we're going against the grain though, literally and figuratively, and hopefully people just try it for themselves.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Brian. We really appreciate it. And we know that your movie is crowdfunded. And so we really do want to encourage people to go give, donate. It's an amazing cause. It's going to be incredible when this comes out. We love, you know, what you're doing for all of us. And we'll meet you out back. I got a tinfoil hat for Mike.
And also,
Oh,
just let everybody know how they can get in touch with you, where they can find you.
yeah. Food Lies on Instagram. Just search for Food Lies anywhere. The site foodlies.org. It's not really updated, but you can find the intro, the trailer there, and then it'll link out to Indiegogo there.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely link to all of that in the show notes. We super appreciate you being on, Brian. I mean, this was a great conversation, and man, keep doing the good work, man.
All right. Thanks, guys.